conflict? The conflict which would be usually leading to the decrease in performance by the individual or by the group. So, according to traditional view, always conflict is viewed as bad and negative. They use the terms such as destruction, violence, irrationality in order to prove conflict to be bad. And also the sources of conflict, they viewed the sources of conflict to be lack of communication, lack of trust, and lack of openness, and also fear of failure. If there are any of these present, then it can lead to conflict. So, according to traditional view of conflict, it is important for us to avoid the situations which can lead to conflict, because if we come across the situations which can lead to conflict, it would be dysfunctional anyways. Then, talking about interactionist view of conflict, what happens is that according to them, eliminating conflict is not the solution. They view that it is important to have conflict at a very limited level. Very limited level of conflict would eventually increase the group's performance or an individual's performance. So they stated that each conflict, every conflict is not useful, but they have divided conflicts into two different types: functional conflict and dysfunctional conflict. When we are talking about functional conflict, any conflict which can increase group's performance or individuals' performance, it is called as functional conflict. Whereas whenever we are talking about dysfunctional conflict, any type of conflict which would be leading to decrease in performance, it is considered as dysfunctional conflict. So again, they have divided different types of conflict based on task, relationship, and process. So whenever we are talking about task conflict, it is related to different types of goals or the work you have to do. When we are talking about relationship conflict, it is considered as interpersonal relationship, related to interpersonal relationships. Whenever we are talking about process conflict, it is how, in which way or in what way we would be doing the work, how we would be doing the work, that is related to process conflict. So what interactionist view states is that if the conflict is relationship conflict, it would always be dysfunctional. As in, if there is conflict in relationship or interpersonal relationship, it would always leads to decrease in performance, because if there is conflict between any two groups or any two individuals, what happens is that individuals would carry negative opinions on the people with whom they had conflict. So it might lead to disharmony and decrease in performance of that group or that individual. So relationship conflict is always considered to be dysfunctional, as in it leads to decrease in performance. Then talking about task conflict, so they have done research and it has been found that low to moderate levels of task conflict can be beneficial. For example, if one of the group has become very stable, very constant, and is being unresponsive to change, as in they don't wanted to change, the technology is being changed and everything in the organization is being changed, but that particular group doesn't wanted to change. In such situations, if any one member of the group would be having differing opinion or disagreement over the group's opinion, then in such situations, what happens is that creativity of the group would be enhancing, as in each individual would be having different view, right? So there would be very much creative opinions. So if there is low to moderate level of task conflict, then it is beneficial. But if it is beyond the limit, if it goes to moderate to high, then it would be destructive, wherein it would be leading to uh, uh, less performance, or there would be ambiguity in team, or in which the task they do, there would be ambiguity. Same goes with process conflicts. If it is in a minimal level, then it is beneficial, but if it goes beyond it, then that would become destructive. So according to interactionist view, we have to maintain the conflict, but in very limited levels. So that is about interactionist view. Then we would be focusing on resolution focused view. So what resolution focused view states is that neither conflict is good, neither nor conflict is bad, but we can't conflict is inevitable. We can't avoid conflict in an organization or in any other settings. It comes in one way or the other. So we have to be ready to face the conflicts. We have to, as in, they make the employees be prepared with the conflict management techniques, conflict resolving techniques. So they also did research on different types of topics which can lead to conflict and how they can be solved. So the resolution focused view is solely focused on resolving conflicts. So whenever we are viewing conflicts, the view has been changed from eliminating conflict to maintaining conflict and then resolving conflicts. So out of all these three views, which one do you think would be more useful?
Resolution.
Resolution focused, right? Because even though if the conflict occurs, if we come across the conflicts, we know how to deal with it. We have the techniques to manage that conflict, right? So that is why in present era, we are mostly focused on resolution focused view of conflict. Then comes types of conflict. So whenever we are talking about types of conflict, there are four different types of conflicts, which include intergroup conflict, intragroup conflict, interpersonal conflict, and intrapersonal conflict. So whenever we are talking about intergroup conflict, it is the conflict between two or more groups. For example, in an organization, there would be different groups, right? So, for example, any task that the employees have been given some of the tasks wherein the employees have been divided into two different groups. So they have been asked to do perform a task wherein if any one only one of the group would be getting reward. So the management's request is to they have to complete the task within very minimal time and also very effectively and efficiently. The performance and the outcome should be more, but the time taken should be less. So any one of the group can only get the rewards. Any one of the group who performs better would be getting the reward. So one group feels the other group to be threat because only one can get the reward, right? So this is one of the type of intergroup conflict which is between groups. Then comes intra-group conflict. Intra-group conflict is within the same group. There would be different members in the same group, right? So these conflict can be due to the status, roles, or roles allocated, task, ambiguity, etc. For example, in intra-group conflict, whom to be selected as a leader. Some of the people would be agreeing one of the person to be leader, and the other group members might not be in favor of that decision. So such type of disagreements would be leading to intra-group conflict, that is conflict within the same group. Then comes interpersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict is the conflict between two or more individuals, wherein disagreement between you and your friend, you and your parents, or else you and your colleagues. For example, if you wanted to take up a course, you have an opinion that you wanted to take up psychology. Your interest is in psychology, wherein your parents are suggesting you to take some business management course. So there is difference in opinion, right? So this is interpersonal conflict. Then comes intrapersonal conflict. Intrapersonal conflict is a conflict within yourself. So these intrapersonal conflict can be divided into four different types, which include approach conflict, approach avoidance conflict, avoidance conflict, and multiple avoidance conflict. So when we are talking about approach conflict, let us understand this with an example. So you have written one of the competitive exam wherein in order to join in the college, wherein you got very good marks. So in your mind, before writing the exam also, you had two colleges in your mind wherein they are your dream colleges. Okay. So with your marks now you can get admissions into both the colleges. You like both the colleges, you wanted to go to both the colleges. So this is approach, as in you can go to number one college, as in two colleges are number one for you, as in for example take college X and college Y. So you like college X and also college Y. So you wanted to approach college X and also you wanted to approach college Y. So you are not able to decide between these choices. When there is two desirable choices, then that is called as approach conflict. Understood? Approach conflict.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Then we would
Yes,
be
ma'am.
yes. Then we would be moving to approach avoidance, wherein in this what happens is that you have one desirable choice and one undesirable choice, wherein for example you got an offer of your dream job but with less salary. As in as this is your dream job, you wanted to approach this, but as this is less salary, you wanted to avoid this. So this is one type of the conflict which is called as approach avoidance conflict, wherein one is desirable choice and the other is undesirable choice. Then comes avoidance conflict. So in these avoidance conflict is that, for example, you got a job offer with very less pay, and the other option is you have to be unemployed. Either you have to accept the job with very less pay, or you have to be unemployed. You don't want to work with less pay, and also you don't want to remain unemployed. So you wanted to avoid both these situations. That is avoidance conflict. But you can't avoid both. You have to select any one of that. So there the conflict arises. Then comes multiple approach and multiple avoidance conflict, wherein in this what happens is that, for example, an individual gets multiple job offers. Okay, so one job offer is with from one company, the employee or the individual gets the highest package, but the distance the employee has to commute is very longer, as in he has to travel very long distance. Then the other job offer is that the salary is less, but the distance to travel is very low or short. So in these what happens is that there is multiple approaches, right? He wanted to have higher salary job, and also he wanted to travel short distance, and also he wanted to avoid long distance, and he also wanted to avoid the job which pays less. So this is about multiple approach avoidance conflict. So I hope you understood type of conflicts. Any doubts in types of conflicts?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Yes. So then we'll be discussing about the conflict process. How does the conflict process goes on? So there are five stages in this conflict process, wherein stage one include potential opposition or incompatibility. Stage two include cognition and personalization. Stage 3 include intentions. Stage 4 include behavior. Stage 5 include outcomes. So we will be looking at this process in detailed manner. Okay. So when we are talking about stage 1, potential opposition or incompatibility. So in this stage 1, we are talking about the sources of conflict. What can be the sources of conflict? Which situations can lead to sources of conflict? So if any of these three conditions, you are seeing antecedent conditions, right? So any of these three conditions are present. These three conditions need not lead directly to the conflict, but if there is a conflict situation, then any of these three would be present in that situation. So that three include communication, structure, personal variables. So can you tell me how communication could lead to conflict? Can anyone of you tell me?
Misinterpretation of the version what the opposite person is trying to explain.
Yes. Yes. Interpretation of information. Then
If they don't like the person who is talking to them, if they feel that they are not superior.
so how communication leads to conflicts is that sometimes lack of communication would lead to, as in, you won't be communicating enough information to the other party or the other individual, so that might lead to conflict. And also, if you communicate over information, the information more than necessary, then that can also lead to conflicting situations. So, for example, whenever you are communicating, if there is noise in the medium of communication, that would also lead to conflict. And also, for example, misinterpretation of information. You have communicated it differently, but the other party has received it differently. So, misinterpretation of information can also lead to conflict. For example, a woman working in an employee working in an organization, previously she has been working with a manager wherein she has a good rapport, good trust. She would be sharing enough information wherein there is good communication. But later the manager has changed, and now before she felt that she is satisfied with the job, she wanted to continue with the job, but then the manager has been changed. So after the manager, there is change in manager. What happened is that there is not enough communication. But whenever the communication happens, also it is often misperceived. So often the work done by that woman or that employee is not perceived correctly by that manager. So there is the communication issues between the manager and the employee. So the employee wanted to leave the job because now she is not being satisfied with the job. So what is the issue here? The communication is the issue here. So even the manager is not communicating properly what should be done by the employee, in which way she should be doing the job, what are his expectations on that employee, and this employee is not being able to communicate what she should be doing, what is her goal, and what are the expectations, what is she expected to do. So due to this lack of communication, it is leading to conflict, differences in opinion, right? Then comes structure. For example, if the structure is not well structured, the tasks are not structured, if there is too many levels of hierarchy, and that hierarchy is not, there is no role clarity, whom to communicate, whom to go and report, there is no clarity in the structure, then that would also be leading to conflict, right? If there is no proper structure in an organization, whom to report, whom to communicate, what are the roles to do, what are the expectations from the employee, what are the specific goals. So when there is ambiguity in goals and ambiguity in roles and regulations, then it would be leading to conflict. So it is important to focus on the structure of the organization, wherein tasks should be structured, the duties, wherein whom to report, whom to communicate, the hierarchy levels should be structured, everything, goals and objectives should be communicated to the employees. So the organization should be focusing on the structure in order to avoid conflicts. So if it is unstructured, then that might lead to conflict. Then comes personal variables. So sometimes your emotions, your interest, or your personality would eventually leading to conflict. Sometimes what happens is that people's personality, someone would be having calm personality, someone would be having aggressive personality, and someone would be having impulsive personality, right? So every individual's personality would differ. For example, the individual who is always calm, uh, when there is a situation wherein the individual has to speak, even if in that situation also that particular individual remains calm and wouldn't share his or her opinion, then there would be that would be leading to conflict, because she is supposed to speak but she is not speaking. So that is that would lead to conflict. For example, aggressive personality, right? Wherein they would react, they would give opinions very harshly, or in very rude tone, wherein the other employees might not perceive it in the same manner. His They don't know his personality or something, so that can also be leading to conflict. Impulsive personality. In impulsive personality, what happens is that they would immediately jump to in taking decisions, right? So they would jump to take decisions. Sometimes due to these decisions might not be correct, and the other team members or the other individuals in that organization might not be okay with that decision making, so that might also lead to conflict. Then coming to our emotions, right? Emotions also comes under personal variables. So when we are talking about our emotions, for example, you woke up late, you wanted to come to office, but you already woke up late, and when you came to bus stop, you didn't find any buses or cabs to travel to the office. So even while traveling also, that took a very long time, and you are frustrated with all this, and you go with that frustration to the office. And in the office there is a meeting, and even to that meeting also you go frustrated, and you give all the frustrated opinions, all the frustrated answers, which might also lead to conflict, because that might not be okay with the other members of that organization or group. So this is about stage one, wherein these three conditions, if they are present, they directly need not lead to conflict. But if there is a conflict, it is possible that out of all these three, any one can be present, or all these three can be present, or any two of these could be the reason or the source of the conflict. Then comes stage two, cognition and personalization. For example, your friend has invited, let's understand this with an example. Your friend has invited you to a party wherein you would be going to the party. Uh, she might be your good friend, you would be going to the party. And at that party, you have seen one of the individual or one of your colleague who is your opponent, wherein you both would always be in disagreeing terms, and also in a few months there is a promotion, and you are the competitors of that promotion. You would always be seeing the other individual as opponent. Your intentions would be different, your opinions would be different. So when you see that person, you know that you would be having conflict with that person. You perceive that there would be a conflict, but you won't be feeling anything, as in emotions are not involved in it. At this, that is called as perceived conflict. If the emotions are not involved in it, but you just recognize that that might lead to conflict, you have a conflict, or you are on disagreeing terms with that particular individual, that is called as perceived conflict. You are perceiving that there is a conflict, there is disagreement in opinions or differences in opinions. So when we are talking about felt conflict, what happens is that when you go to that same party, you look at that individual. Looking at that individual, you suddenly feel anxious, tensed, frightened. You might feel that individual might create some disturbances between you and your friend. So you might become anxious, disturbed, tensed, right? So emotions are involved in this. So that is felt conflict, as in you are feeling the conflict. Your emotions are involved in it. When the emotions are involved in the conflicting process, then it is called as felt conflict. Any doubt between perceived conflict and felt conflict?
No, ma'am.
Then we would be moving to stage three, which is intentions. Intention, as in you have you know what are the sources of conflict, and also either you have perceived the conflict or you have felt the conflict. Then what are your intentions behind dealing with this conflict? In which way you wanted to deal with this conflict? So these conflict handling intentions can be of five types. So these five types are dependent on two factors, which include assertiveness and cooperativeness, right? So based on these factors, you would be able to decide your intention. When we are talking about assertiveness, it is the level wherein you are concerned only with your goals and your accomplishments. When we are talking about cooperativeness, at what level you wanted to be in, as in you wanted to look at the needs of other individuals. You wanted to cooperate with the, you wanted to, at the same time, you wanted to know your own needs, and you wanted to also deal with others' needs. You wanted to look after their needs. You wanted to satisfy their needs. In assertiveness, you are only concerned with your needs. In cooperativeness, you are also concerned with other parties' needs or other individuals' needs. So based on these two factors, we can divide these intentions into five different types, which include competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding, and accommodating. So when we are talking about competing, in these both the individuals are high on assertiveness and they are uncooperative to each other. High on assertiveness and uncooperative to each other. As in both the individuals in this conflict or both the groups in this conflict wanted to focus on their own needs and they wanted to satisfy their own needs. They don't want to look at others' needs, what they wanted to say, what are their goals. They wanted they doesn't even they are not concerned about others but they are only concerned about themselves. They wanted to deal with their own needs. That is competing. As in here only one person or the one group will be winning, the other will be losing. Then comes collaborating. In collaborating what happens is that both the teams are cooperative and as well as assertive, right? They are high on assertive and also high on cooperative. You can see here, right? High on cooperative and high on assertive. In this what happens is that people comes in equal terms. They would be stating each other goals. What are the goals of two parties, what they wanted to have, in which ways they can be coming in contact and as in the other person's need should also be satisfied and our need also should be satisfied. We would be working in that terms. Then it is called as collaborating intention, wherein here there would be win-win situation. Both of them would be in the winning situation, right? Competing is
Ma'am,
win-loss.
can it be like mutual understanding, mutual
Yes,
benefits?
mutual benefits, mutual understanding, because both of them would be benefited with that. That is called as collaborating, wherein both would be in win-win situation. Then comes compromising. In compromising what happens is that 50% assertive and 50% cooperative. There would be neither win nor loss. They would be coming to a stance wherein all their goals won't be accomplished or they won't be making others goals to be accomplished to the fullest. So only 50% of their goals would be accomplished. They would be compromising with their goals accomplishment and also the other party would be compromising with their own goal accomplishment. Only 50% of goals would be accomplished. So there is no win, no loss. Then comes avoiding. In avoiding what happens is that neither the two parties are they're unassertive and they are uncooperative. They don't even view what is the situation, what is the conflict, why is it happening, what necessary steps are to be taken, whether you wanted to cooperate with the other individual or you wanted to state your own needs. They are not concerned with anything, but they just wanted to avoid that conflict. They don't even take any interest in that conflict. They just avoid the situation. That is avoiding intention. Then talking about accommodating, instead of focusing on your own needs and anything, you will be focusing mostly on others needs, as in the other opposite party would be there, right? Or either the individual or the with whom you are in conflict or the group with whom you are in conflict. You will be more focused on making them win. The other party would be winning, you would be on the losing side. You would be mostly cooperative and very much unassertive. You won't be stating your own needs, but you will be okay with the other party accomplishing their own goals. For example, you are an employee and there would be leader, right? You are a follower and you are leader and you are having differences in opinions, but in order to please your boss you would be going with your leader's opinion, but you won't be stating your own opinion. That is about accommodating intention. So when there is conflict, the individual can choose any of these intentions. They can go forward with any of these intentions. These intentions are not fixed. As the conflict process goes on, the intentions can be changed. So that is about intentions. Then we would be going to stage 4, behavior. So in all these stages we don't know whether the conflict is there or not. In the stage 4 we would be seeing the overt behavior, right? We would be knowing that there is conflict going on between two individuals or two groups, right? Because they are showing it in their behavior. So these conflicting behavior ranges in a continuum. It can start from minor disagreements or misunderstanding, and it can range from overt efforts to destroy the other party. So, what, for example, the conflict has just started with minor disagreements. So, you might be having the other intention. For example, you might be having the intention of collaborating. You wanted to listen to others' goals, in which you wanted to see in which way the goals can be clubbed and each other can be in win-win situation. But at the same time, the other party comes and speaks to you in a very rude manner. They wanted to compete with you, and they use some verbal attacks to attack you. Then it starts with an argument, right? So your intention might be different, but due to the behavior of the other party, your intention would also be changed. So it starts from minor disagreements. When the conflict starts, it can, when the lowest level is minor disagreements or misunderstanding, you won't be showing this is not overt, you can't see this, you have disagreement but you are not able to see this. But as the level increases, you would be able to see the conflict between two parties, two individuals, or two groups. So when the level escalates, or when behavior goes beyond the control, then you can use some sort of resolution, conflict resolving techniques or conflict management techniques. So these are some of the conflict solving techniques. Using any of these techniques, you can de-escalate the behavior of conflicting parties. So problem solving is the first one, wherein both the conflicting parties, or how many ever conflicting parties are involved in that conflict, everyone would be sitting face to face, and they would identify the problem and would be looking for different types of solutions in which they can solve that problem. They would be having open discussion, and they would be finding a solution wherein each team are agreeing on that solution. Then comes superordinate goals, creating a shared goal that can be attained without the cooperation of each of the conflicting parties. For example, if you see that in an organization, two groups are always in conflict, then what does the management do is that they would be giving a combined goal, right? When these two groups are in conflict because scarcity of resources, only one can getting one can be getting rewards, right? So what happens, the management gives combined tasks wherein without the cooperation of the other group, one group can't be getting the reward. So there would be combined tasks, superordinate goals, there would be combined goals wherein each team member should be equally involved. From the both the groups, people should be equally involved in order to accomplish that goal. In such way, conflict can be resolved by giving superordinate goals wherein both the parties' cooperation is equally important. Then comes expansion of resources. For example, if the conflict is because of scarcity of resources, either it might be money, promotion, or opportunities. For example, there is a conflict between two employees in an organization because of promotion opportunities. Only one individual can be getting promotion, so two of them are always in conflict, and that is leading to decrease in performance as such. That is leading to dysfunctional conflict, disharmony in the organization. So what the organization can do is that giving equal chances of a promotion, or the increasing the number of promotions, or else introducing other kinds of rewards which can be beneficial. So in such way also you can resolve a conflict. Then comes avoidance. So if you don't wanted to be in a conflicting situations, you don't want any complications or anything, then you can just avoid the situation. Then you can just withdraw from, for example, whenever you are giving your opinion in the group, there are very much disharmony, there are many clashes, then you wanted to avoid that situation. When you feel that not giving an opinion or not giving whatever you think, that would just solve the conflict, resolve the conflict, so you just avoid the situation, you avoid giving your opinion. That is one of the technique of solving conflicts. Then comes smoothing, playing down differences while emphasizing common interest between the conflicting parties. for example, in a group, there would be many different people, right? For example, there would be 10 different members. 6 members are giving one opinion, 4 members are giving one opinion, but both the opinions are equally valued by the leader. So he wants to, instead of considering the differences, he wanted to take common interest, what are common in both the ideas, and he wanted to club. Instead of considering or valuing the differences between both the ideas, he wanted to value the common interest and give equal opportunity to both the ideas. In such way also conflict can be resolved. Then comes compromise. Each party to the conflict gives up, as in we have just seen compromise, right? When what happens, 50 for example, you have two opinions in a group. 50% people are giving one opinion and the 50% people are giving other opinion. Then what you do is that you would be taking half of the ideas from one of the group and half of the ideas from the other group. You would club them and see how they would be useful in improving the performance or effectivity or the outcomes. Then comes authoritative command. If any of the above techniques are not useful, then you use authoritative command, as in the one who is in the command would be using their power. They would be eliminating the conflict in any of the way they choose. Then comes altering the human variable. For example, if there are two individuals in conflict, there would be one counselor or someone mediator who would be coming and trying to change their behavior and attitude using some of the training or some different types of technique. They usually change the behavior of the individuals who are involved in conflict. Then comes altering the structural variables. If you see that in most of the situations, you see that mostly only two groups are involved in a conflict, then uh, you will just transfer the department or you will be changing the organizational structure. You see that both the groups do not compete with each other. They would be working separately or independently, so that there won't be any conflict. Or else you would be, if position or power is the problem, then how to uh, determine that power, everything, you would be changing the structure variables would be changed in order to resolve the problem. So you can use any of these conflict management or conflict solving techniques in order to decrease the escalating behavior or the overt behavior. And also even if the conflict is at minimal level also, you can use any of these techniques to eliminate the conflict or resolve the conflict. Then comes stage 5, which is outcomes. So these outcomes can be of two different types, that is functional outcomes and dysfunctional outcomes. So when we are talking about functional outcomes, as we have discussed, if the conflict is functional, as in if any conflicts, whenever the conflict is considered as functional, if the group's performance or the individual performance increases, it is considered as functional conflict. If any of the conflict which might lead to the decrease in performance, then that is considered as dysfunctional conflict. So in the same way, functional outcomes and dysfunctional outcomes. For example, if there is the functional outcomes in order to functional conflict, what happens is that in relationship there shouldn't be any conflict. Relationship conflict is always dysfunctional, so we have to avoid relationship conflicts as much as possible. So if there are diverse groups, right, diverse groups in an organization, what happens is that we would be having diverse opinion. It would increase the creativity, it would increase decision making capability. So in such situations, disagreeing points or differences in opinions would lead to increase in performance. So in such situations we can consider diversity. Whenever we are considering dysfunctional outcome or performance, dysfunctional conflict, what happens is that for example, you have diverse people in the group, but if they divide, for example, gender opinions, right? If they are mostly oriented towards the gender or any geographical locations, when they are favoring only one person based on the gender or else the geographical location or else any race, then that would lead to decrease in performance, disharmony, etc. So we have to look whether whether the conflict is functional or dysfunctional. If it is functional, it is okay, but if the conflict is dysfunctional, then we have to see how to resolve this conflict by using different types of conflict management techniques. So, did you understand the conflict process? Any doubt in the conflict process?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Then we would be talking about negotiation. So, what do you think is negotiation? In our day-to-day life, we hear the term negotiation many a times, right? So, can you tell me what is mean by negotiation?
Putting the point to have means to get the things done according to them, instead of if suppose the child doesn't want to eat anything, so we negotiate by giving, if you do this, if you eat this, then I'm going to buy a chocolate. You're negotiating to get the things done,
Yes.
offering, bribing basically.
So whenever we are talking about a negotiation, in this either two parties or more parties are involved, and they would be discussing in solving an issue, right? And also any of the party involved should be in acceptable terms in order to solve that problem. So in our day-to-day life, we use the term negotiation and bargaining interchangeably. So there are two different types of bargaining or negotiation strategies. One is distributive bargaining and the other one is integrative bargaining. So let us understand what are the differences between distributive bargaining and integrative bargaining. So the goal of the distributive bargaining is get as much as of the pie as possible. For example, let's understand this with an example. So you in an online advertisement you have seen a car, okay? You wanted to buy a car and there is an advertisement of a car and the amount details has been specified. So you like that company car and you went out to see that car. So after seeing that car, you like the features of the car and everything, the technology, everything you have liked about the car. But the price, right? For example, the car has been bought 6 months back. Then it was 5 lakhs. Then now the seller or the car owner wants to sell it at some as in 4,50,000 as such. But as it has been already used for 6 months, you don't wanted to pay 4,50,000 for that. So then you start bargaining or negotiating with that owner. As in, what you'll be doing is that you wanted to see either you here only there would be one situation, either you will be winning or you will be losing, or the car owner would be winning or losing. So there would be in this there would be target point and resistance point. When we are talking about target point, this is the point at which you wanted to get that car, as in this is the amount at which you wanted to get this car so that you would be beneficial. When we are talking about resistance point, the resistance point is that it is the minimal limit, as in for example if the car owner, right? So the car owner target is to sell the car at 4,50,000. That is the target point. When coming to resistant point, he wanted to sell that car at 4 lakhs, not beyond that. So if any individual goes to the owner and starts bargaining, if he says 3,50,000, then he would just break off the deal and he won't be bargaining anymore because his resistant point has been broken off, right? Because his resistant point was 4 lakh. His target point was 4,50,000. So both the parties should be between these target point and resistant points in order to continue the deal or the negotiation process. If not, the negotiation process won't be continued further. So in this, only one individual can win and the other individual can lose. The focus is on positions as in target position and resistant position. The focus would be on that positions. You wanted to focus on the target position, you don't want to go beyond the resistance position. As in, you wanted to sell this car, the minimal price is 4 lakh, you can't go beyond that price. If the other individual goes beyond that price, then you would be breaking of the negotiation process. Then here your interests are opposed, as in you wanted to sell the car at the highest price and the other individual wanted to take the car at the lowest price possible. Then comes information sharing. So here you will be only sharing low information. For example, if the other party who came to buy that car, if you have a money problem, that is the reason you are selling the car. If the other party knows that information, you are in need of money immediately, they would be sticking to their own bargaining, they won't be listening to you. So here there will be only low sharing of information, you won't be sharing any information, personal information or anything. You would be only sticking to sharing information regarding the features of the car, technology of the car, when it was brought, etc. But you won't be telling them the details, why you are exchanging, or why you selling it. You won't be sharing any additional information, because any additional information given, that would be useful for the other part. So we won't be sharing additional information. Then comes duration of relationship. In distributive bargaining, the duration of relationship is very short. When that is For example, you will be selling the car, then you are done with that relationship, you won't be any more bothered about that. When we are talking about integrative bargaining, instead of seeing that getting as much as possible, we would be seeing that in order to expand that, so that both the parties can share most of that possible. For example, think that there is a textile manufacturing company. For this textile manufacturing company, there was a merchant who is the usual customer since 6 to 7 years. From 6 to 7 years, he would be only taking textiles from this textile manufacturing company. From past 6 years, he would be giving advance whenever he would be giving some order to manufacture the textiles. But now what happens is that he is low of cash or something, now he can't pay the advance, but he has an immediate order to be delivered, so he have to give order to the textile manufacturing company. So he would be coming to the textile manufacturing company and would be speaking to the owner or the manager of the textile manufacturing company. He wanted to negotiate or make a deal which would be useful for both of them. Firstly, he would be giving advance, then take the material, and then pay the amount in parts as in installments. He used to pay the amount in installments. Now what happened is that, as there is a limited cash with him, some withdrawals are not being made. He would be going to the manager or the owner of the textile manufacturer company, and he would be making a deal, as in he can't pay advance, but whenever he collects the material, he would be giving the total amount at the same time. So that in this, what happens is that, instead of for example, if the textile manufacturing company doesn't make an order or take that order because he is not paying the advance, then the textile manufacturing company would be losing this deal, and also there would be much loss for the merchant also. But in this situation, both merchant and also the company is in win-win situation. The company is getting their own money, and also the merchant is getting his or her materials, right? In this, what happens is that high sharing of information, you would be letting the other party know what is your situation, because you are connected for the long time. For example, if there is no connection, any new merchant comes and asks you without any advance, the company won't be manufacturing, right? Because they know the merchant from past 5 to 6 years, there is a relationship built, long term relationship between them, there is trust between them, they would be doing it. So in this, trust and long term relationship is the basis where there would be high sharing of information, they would be sharing sharing what is the problem, how they would be paying the amount, everything would be shared, so that there won't be any miscommunication or something. That is integrative bargaining and distributive bargaining. Where in integrative bargaining it is win-win situation, in distributive bargaining it is win-loss situation. In distributive bargaining we usually use deadline technique, wherein for example there are also other customers or other buyers who would be buying this car for this amount, or else for this amount, if you don't want, then I would be giving to the other person. So they would be using deadline technique, as in the next day the other buyer would be coming and looking at the car, they would be taking the car. So when there is deadline, you would be, as in you would be in very much hurry, right? You like the car, so you would be going to pay 4 lakhs, the buyers, as in whatever the owner has said, you would be paying that amount, you would be taking that car, because the next day the other buyer would be coming, they would be looking at the car, and if they like, he would be selling the car to the other person. You don't want to lose the deal, that is the reason you will be taking the car. So in distributive bargaining you mostly use deadline technique. So this is about distributive bargaining and integrative bargaining. Any doubts in distributive bargaining and integrative bargaining? Any doubts? You all can hear me, right?
No, ma'am. It's clear, ma'am.
Then we would be looking at the process of negotiation. What process is involved in negotiation? Okay, so the first step would be preparation and planning. So in this preparation and planning, what you would be doing is that you would be looking what all goals should be established, what all should be negotiated, what all goals should be presented in between them, and what the other party would be presenting. So in this, there is a term called as BATNA. Okay, best alternative to negotiated agreement. For example, there would the other party would be giving you some of the agreement, you know that there is the other best alternative which you can go instead of taking that negotiation. So you should always be knowing what is the best alternative to the negotiated agreement. So if anyone gives you an agreement, what will be the best alternative you can take? If there are any best alternatives, you can look for. So you have to keep that alternatives in mind whenever you are preparing and planning, and also you have to look whether whatever the you not only concerned with your goals, whatever you are going to present or something, you have to look for what the other party is going to present, what can be their goals, how you can negotiate, what would be the middle term, how you can be beneficial, not making others as in lose, or which type of intention you are holding, whether you wanted to collaborate or you wanted to compete. So what you wanted to, everything you have to decide in preparation and planning. So after all this preparation is done, your planning is done, then you would be going to definition and ground rules. In these, what you will be doing is that you will be deciding who will be negotiating, who will be going first, which individual would be negotiating, which individual would be communicating with the opposite party, or else who would be going, the leader or the followers, or which group would be going and negotiating. Out of these group, which group has who has to make, who has to plan, who has to prepare, and who has to propose, who has to communicate, everything, the ground rules, what all to be done and what shouldn't be done. The rules will be established in definition and ground rule stage. When we are done with definition and ground rule stage, then we would be moving to clarification and justification stage. In this, what happens is that both the parties are seated and they would be proposing their goals, right? Whatever goals you have prepared, you have planned, you will be proposing that, and you will be letting the opposite party know. You'll be clarify, you'll be justifying, you are negotiating terms, why are you negotiating, how this negotiation is possible and how it is justified, how the other party won't be losing because of that, and how two parties can be in win-win situation. You have to justify every goal presented, or whatever you are negotiating, you have to justify whatever you present. That comes in clarification and justification. Then comes bargaining and problem solving. During these terms of negotiation, if they won't be in mutual terms, that can also lead to conflict. If the conflict arises, you have to look which problem solving techniques to use, who would be using that, how you would be using that, how you would be implementing. Everything should be, you have to look. Then bargaining, which bargaining strategy you wanted to use. You wanted to be in win situation and you wanted to make the other person lose, or you wanted to make the other person win and also you wanted to win. With integrative bargaining you wanted to use, or distributive bargaining, you would be deciding in this stage of bargaining and problem solving. Then we would be going to closure and implementation. So in these, what we do is that after you are bargaining, after the in the fourth stage the negotiation would be done. In the fifth stage you would be coming to final negotiation. In organizations or something where negotiations are done in formal settings, that would be in paperwork, right? So they would be doing some paperwork for closure and implementation. They would be discussing the plans, how that should be implemented, what should be done, and they would be writing bond or paperwork, they would be signing that. So we came to these negotiation terms, there won't be any conflict further. We would be moving cordially and mutually and working on this project. So that is about closure and implementation. Then the process of negotiation ends. So there are total 5 stages: preparation and planning, definition and ground rules, then clarification and justification, bargaining and problem solving, closure and implementation. So any doubts?
No doubts, ma'am. Clear.
Clear about conflict and negotiation?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts in topic of leadership or teams? Clear, right? Conflict, types of conflict, everything.
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, we are done with our fourth block, unit 4. Block 4 we are done, and in next class we'll be dealing with block 5. If there are any doubts, please ask. If not, we are done with the class. You can take a short break and join the next class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. See you all in the next class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, can we have a small brief about offline classes? Means like early classes, like early units. Since we have the time, we can use this opportunity to recollect the basic lessons what we have missed.
You wanted to may repeat all the offline classes?
Some, ma'am, because we have the time. So any of the important topics which we want us to
I
focus more
have
on.
to go back to the syllabus and look into it, right? I don't remember all the topics what you all have. And also I don't have PDF of that topics because we have discussed directly in the offline classes, right?
Yes, ma'am. Just like no need of PDF. A small brief on the like we have the starting initial lesson scope, nature, and organization behavior,
One.
and managerial functions, challenges and opportunities for the organization behavior, foundations of individual behavior, Any of the topics means like we just wanted to utilize the time.
Yes. The problem is these topics, the units, unit block 1 and block 2, it is important to have the PDF or in order to discuss, right? So if not, if I go on explaining all this, then it would be difficult for you to understand.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, thank you.
Or any of the theories which you can just go through.
So wait a minute. We'll look into motivational theories if possible. So when we are talking about motivational theories, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in motivational theory, the first theory we have is the need hierarchy theory, which was given by Abraham Maslow. So he gave a pyramid of needs wherein he first gave 5 different types of needs, which are physiological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and actualization needs. So what he said that only after one step or one stage of need is satisfied, then only we can go to the other stage of needs. As in, when the physiological needs
Excuse
are
me, ma'am. Notes is there. Please show the notes, ma'am. Offline class.
yes,
Notes, ma'am. Any shortcut notes is there.
I didn't prepare any notes for the offline classes, but you can refer to textbooks. I have given you name of the textbooks, right? Organizational Behavior by Stephen P. Robbins or Luthans. You can refer to both these textbooks wherein you can have good information. You will be having examples also you can study, so it would be easier for you to remember all that.
Ma'am, please repeat the name of the authors of 2 books.
Stephen P. Robbins.
Stephen
Robbins. Organizational Behavior by Stephen P. Robbins.
Okay, ma'am.
And Organizational Behavior by Fred Luthans.
Spell it.
Organization FRED
Okay.
LUTHANS. Fred Luthans. So you can refer both these textbooks for organizational behavior, wherein you would be in both these books, you will be getting enough information which would be easier for you to make notes or prepare for your exams. If you don't get that textbook or didn't find that textbook, then let me know in the next class. I'll share that textbook. Is that okay?
Ma'am, you can share the PDF of the textbook today.
Today I have to look. It is not present in my laptop. I have to go to the drive and search for it.
Ma'am, relation between the leadership style and the emotional intelligence, how they are interlinked?
Leadership style and
Emotional intelligence.
okay. What is emotional intelligence is that in emotional intelligence we would be having many different factors. So this term emotional intelligence is given by Daniel Goleman. So in this, what he says is that there are 5 major topics or factors in emotional intelligence, which include self-awareness, social intelligence or social skills, motivation, self-regulation, and empathy. So having all these skills in an individual, it makes, for example, in a leader, right? Whenever we are talking about leadership or being a leader, so if the individual can't understand the emotion, when we are talking about empathy, it is about understanding others' perspective from their own perspective. Sympathizing is different from empathizing. In sympathy, what we do is that we feel for others, but in empathy, we don't feel for others, but we try to understand their situation from their perspective. So understanding others emotions, being able to regulate their own emotions, being aware of oneself makes it good for the leader. For example, just think that if a leader is very aggressive, his personality is aggressive or something, if he or she is not able to control their behavior and always advises the followers and always treat the followers with their aggression, being not able to control their behavior, so do you think that leader would be effective in controlling the followers?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So that leader won't be that effective. So having all these components, being self-aware, not knowing about oneself, if the leader doesn't know about oneself, what are the abilities he or she is having, if he has the ability to control all the followers or not, if he or she is not self-aware about themselves, then there is no possibility that they would be they can perceive others in the right manner, right? What abilities the followers have, right? So it is important for the leader to be self-aware, self-regulated, and having empathy, motivational skills. It is important for a leader to be motivating, right? He or she should be inspiring the followers. If he or she is not able to inspire the followers, then the followers might not, as in the outcomes or the performance of the followers might not be that effective, right? So having all these components of emotional intelligence make the leader to be effective rather than being ineffective. So this is the relationship between leadership and emotional intelligence. Anything to ask? Look into the syllabus, and if you want anything, then you can ask. Anything?
Oh, sorry, ma'am. I was in a mute. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I was
Okay.
like it was like cohesiveness. How in the group development, we have 5 stages: alternative group development and the cohesiveness of the team spirit.
You are asking about group development process.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in group development, there are 5 stages which are forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. So, in this, what we do is that in the forming stage, different people from different background, different places come together and be a part of that group. They will be coming together. There won't be any communication. They just come together in order to be a part of that group. So that is the first stage. So in the storming stage, what happens is that there is no particular status or something, as in who would be the leader, who would be the follower, who would be doing which task, under whom they should be working, or who would be giving advices to them. There is nothing in such. So there would be a storm, as in there would be very much conflicts between the members of the team. There would be a conflict between the members in storming stage. So by the end of this stage, they would be having a clarity wherein who would be the leader, who would be the leading, who would be allocating the roles to the group members, what work they should be doing. They would be having a clarity by the end of the storming stage. Then we would be going to norming stage. In this norming stage, we would be deciding rules and regulations, right? There would be some rules and regulations, which path to be followed. For example, the members of the group shouldn't be taking unethical part, or they should be following some values. They should be honest, they should be genuine with whatever information they give, whatever information they collect. So that rules and regulations would be shaped, or they would be formulating that rules and regulations in norming stage. So by the end of the norming stage, they would be knowing what rules to be followed, what they shouldn't be do, what are do's and don'ts. They would be knowing. The group members would be knowing everything. Then comes performing stage. So in these performing stage, what the group members would they do is that they would be having some objectives, some goals, right? So all the group members would be doing their own part in order to achieve that goals. So after achieving that goals, then the fifth stage would be adjourning, wherein after the goals are set, then they would be adjourning. If it is permanent group, as in the group would be continuing permanently, then there wouldn't be a fifth stage. There would be performing stage. But if it is a temporary group, then there would be adjourning stage, wherein every group member will be parting away after the goals are achieved. So that is about.
Is there any alternative model for the temporary group for the?
Yes, there is an alternative model, wherein in this what happens is that group members would be coming, and initially there would be a meeting wherein each group member would be discussing, and what they would be after that, what they would be doing is that after in these meetings they would be discussing what to be done, what not to be done, what are the goals, what are the paths to be followed. Everything would be discussed in the first meeting. So after the first meeting is done, what they will do is that they go for action. They would be performing the task, and in while performing the task, many of the group members would be having different ideas, right? So they would be knowing in which way they have to perform the task, whether there are any other ways to perform the task which can make it easier. If they get any ideas, also they can't implement that ideas because the goals and the objectives has been set. So they have to only follow the goals and objectives which were set in the first stage of discussion. So they would be following only that. Then later what happens is that after half of the time is completed, then the other group discussion would be made. So in this what they will be discussing is that what all ideas they got while performing these tasks. So they would be having the end goal, right? Specific objectives, and also they would be having deadlines because these are temporary groups. There would be a deadline. Within that deadline, they have to perform this task. So after the half of the time is done, again the meeting is held. In these meeting, the people would be discussing what all ideas they got, what all difficulties they have faced, or what are the blockages in reaching the goal. Everything would be discussed, and it would be analyzed. Then after discussing everything, then new goals and objectives would be set as a new goal. If any new ideas would be implemented in this stage, then again the groups start performing. Again the group start performing, and they would be implementing all the new changes which are made in the meeting which is held after half of the time is done. So after implementing this, after for example, if there is only very much less time remaining for the deadline, then another meeting would be done. They would be evaluating their performance. If the performance is up the mark, or else before the deadline arrives, how they could work. They would be looking into that, and before the deadline comes, they would be evaluating the performance. And when it is the deadline, when the goals are achieved, then they would be dispersing because they are temporary groups. They can't be permanent. They would be dispersing after the goals are reached before the deadline, or on the deadline, or by the deadline. So that is the alternative model.
Ma'am, what is expectancy theory, ma'am?
Expectancy theory of motivation.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order to understand these expectancy, wait a second, I'll see if there is sharing the screen. 1 minute. You all can see the screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in expectancy theory, what it is that the one who is performing or putting efforts, right? The individual who puts efforts, if the individual knows that that efforts would be leading to performance and that performance would be leading to rewards, then he or she would be putting the efforts. If not, if there are no expectations on the rewards, if they know that there would be no rewards or no performance outcomes, then they won't be putting the efforts. So if the individual who is putting the effort, if he or she has the expectations on the reward, if he feels that the reward is important, it is the favorable outcome, then they would be putting the efforts. If not, that individual won't be putting the efforts. So the effort the individual would put eventually depends on the expectations on the reward of that individual. What is the effort performance relationship? If the individual feels that his effort would be leading to performance, then only he would be putting the effort. If not, if they feel that it won't be putting, if even though if he puts much ability, even though if he has abilities and all, but eventually whatever he do, it won't be leading to performance. For example, there are two individual, for them the task has been given. For one individual, that task given, the individual has all the abilities to do that task. For the other individual, the task is given but he or she doesn't have the abilities to do that task. So what happens, the one who has the abilities, he knows that his abilities and putting effort would lead to performance. But when the individual knows that he or she doesn't have any abilities, or even though if he put any of the effort, if he try anything, he know that it won't be leading to performance or anything. If the, as in, there would be some kind of performance but that wouldn't be effective. So if the individual feels his effort would lead to effective performance, then only the effort would be kept. If not, the individual won't be putting any effort. Then comes performance reward relationship. So even after the you are you kept your efforts, and then the performance, the outcome, you have seen that there would be the outcome, the performance would be effective. Will that performance would lead to rewards or not? Are there any rewards for that performance? For example, after doing as in your productive, your group has did well. After doing well also, after your performance is well, if you don't get appreciation from your manager or any type of benefits, rewards after completion of that project, it is most likely that the individual is not willing to put that effort if the rewards are not according to the uh, individual. For example, if the individual who is putting the effort wants to have a promotion, in order to have the promotion he is putting the efforts, but he knows that instead of getting promotion he would be getting some reward in pay increase or something. His actual, the actual reward he wants is promotion, but the reward he would be getting is pay hike or something. So he don't want pay hike but he wanted to promotion. When the reward is not in accordance with their personal goals, then he or she won't be putting that much effort. If he know that the reward he would, the personal, his personal goal is to get promotion, so if that reward is in accordance with their personal goals, then it is most likely that the individual would be putting more effort, he would be trying to perform better, he would be effective of give effective performance, and after, and would be wanting to get the reward in order to satisfy or achieve the personal goal set. So that is about the expectancy theories. Everything depends on the expectations of that individual, whatever expectations he holds, whether that expectations would be true. If that expectations would be true, then only the individual would be putting the efforts. If not, he or she won't be putting the efforts. That is expectancy theory given by Vroom.
But how motivation is interrelated to this expectancy, ma'am?
Yes, because here the expectation, this is motivation theory, right? In this, what happens is that all these process, right? So, for example, if there is, he starts his putting efforts only thinking about the personal goals, right? Personal goals and organizational rewards. So, these expectations, his expectations on the organizational reward is the motivator for him to put the effort. So the expectation he has acts as the motivator for him to put in the efforts.
So this expectancy is for self. It is not from the this. What he is expecting is for his personal goal from the organization. He is
E-
expecting it's a
yes,
self.
even
But
yes,
it's a single.
eventually the individual would be having some personal goals. Whether these personal goals would be satisfied or not, even if the personal goals are not satisfied, what are his expectations? Whether if he put his efforts, will it be leading to his expectational rewards or not? If that expectational reward or the organizational reward is motivating him, if it acts as the motivator, then only the effort the individual keeps would be more. If not, that would be normal effect, which would be leading to normal performance, and there would be no reward. If he has that expectation on the reward, if he knows something about the reward, then he would be able to put the effort. That reward or the expectation acts as a motivator for him to put the effort.
Is there any criticism for this theory, ma'am?
Mostly this theory, as in for every theory there would be some criticism, because every time, for example, for once he has expected about the reward, he has put in very much efforts, as in he did very much hard work, put in lot of efforts. He has learnt new skills in order to perform this task, expecting about the promotion. But after all, he saw that instead of promotion he got pay hike. In the next time, what happens is that next time, whenever this project comes up, so he would be very much interested in putting all his effort, learning new abilities, learning new skills. He won't be putting extra effort to do the performance by for performing the task. So that might be some criticism as such.
And what is the difference between the equity theory and expectancy theory, ma'am?
Equity theory is entirely different from expectancy theory. In equity theory, what happens is that there would be some comparison figure for us. For example, if I am working in an organization, right? If I am working in an organization as an employee, in equity theory, what happens is that you would be having someone to compare. You would be comparing yourself with the other figure. So in what ways you would be comparing? Let me show you. There it is. So there would be. So this equity theory is given by Stacey Adams. So wherein in this equity theory, what happens is that whenever you are working in an organization, for example, you would be given some salary, right? For example, you are working same hours and you would be getting some 7 lakh per annum, and the other individual, your colleague, is also working for the same time, working on the same project. He or she is doing the same work as you do, but getting 9 lakhs per annum. So she is your, I mean, you are equating with her, right? You are comparing with her. So there would be some categories you have to see when you are comparing with the figure, whom you are taking as the comparing figure, right? So self insight. For example, you have to look whether their experience is same as yours or not, or else they are putting the same effort as yours, or else if they are putting more effort and getting more salary. If not, the outcome, I mean the efficiency, the performance outcome is more, everything would be considered in this. There is comparison, right? You will be comparing your effort with others effort. Self inside is that you would be comparing with that individual from your own department in the organization. Self outside is that you would be comparing with other individual from other department but same organization, right? There would be many departments, right? Inside is you would be comparing with the colleague of from your same department. Self outside is, for example, you are working in sales department, you would be comparing with marketing, sales department only. When self outside, you are working in sales department but you would be comparing with marketing department colleague. Then comes other inside. Other inside is that you would be another individual or group of individual inside the employees organization, right? This self outside is about different organization but same position. You are working in the sales department, for example, you are working in company X, and in sales department, self inside is company, you will be comparing with company X sales department only. Self outside is you'll be comparing with company Y sales department colleague, whether your pay is same or not. When talking about other inside, then you would be comparing with other department in the organization X. You will be comparing with department marketing when you are working in sales department. When we are talking about other outside, you will be comparing with, you are working in company X, you will be comparing with company Y's marketing department. That is, department is different and company is different. In self inside, company is same, department is same. Self outside, organization is different but department is same. In other inside, organization is same but the department is different. Other outside is organization is different and also the department is different. So based on these four your reference with whom you are comparing, your reference figure should be based on all this, with whom you are comparing, or else whether he or she has a high expertise working since before you have joined, she has also been in organization, right? So all these factors you have to compare. What is your input, what is your output, whether their output is the same, whether their input is the same, everything you have to compare. So then only if even after comparing, if you feel that you are not being valued, your effort is not being valued, then you can leave the organization and look for any other job whom you would be, where you would be valued.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.